At 4 a.m., when most of the town of Midlothian, Texas was asleep, security cameras inside a quiet church recorded something deeply unsettling. A lone figure moves through the halls, dressed head to toe like law enforcement, helmet, vest, boots, carrying what looks like a weapon. But instead of urgency, there's calm, almost casual. The figure opens doors, wanders, pauses, as if knowing exactly where they are. Less than an hour later, fitness instructor and mother of 3 Missy Bevers would be found dead inside that same church, just minutes before she was supposed to lead an early morning workout class. To this day, no one knows who that person in the footage is, or whether what the cameras captured was a disguise, a message, or a mistake. Before Missy Bevers became the center of a chilling mystery, she was someone people counted on. She was a mother of 3, deeply involved in her children's lives and known among friends as energetic, dependable, and warm. Fitness wasn't just a hobby for Missy. It was how she connected with others. She taught early morning Camp Gladiator classes, often showing up before sunrise to motivate people who were still half asleep. Those classes weren't just workouts. For many, they were a community, and Missy was at the center of it, encouraging, joking, and pushing people to believe they were stronger than they thought. On the morning of April 18, 2016, Missy arrived early at the Creekside Church of Christ in Midlothian, Texas, to set up for one of those classes. It was routine, something she had done many times before. Nothing about her life suggested she was in danger, and that's part of what makes this case so difficult to understand. Missy wasn't hiding, running, or afraid. She was simply showing up for the people who expected her to be there. The morning of April 18, 2016, was dark and rainy in Midlothian, Texas. Missy Bevers left her home just before 4 a.m., heading to the Creekside Church of Christ, where she planned to lead a 5 a.m. fitness class. Several of her regular participants would later say they received a text from Missy earlier that morning, mentioning the weather and encouraging them not to skip the workout. Surveillance cameras later showed Missy arriving at the church shortly before 4:20 a.m. She entered alone, using a key or access code, and began setting up for the class, arranging equipment and preparing the space, just as she always did. Unbeknownst to her, someone else had already been inside the building. At approximately 4:35 a.m., Missy was attacked. The assault was sudden and violent. She never had the chance to call for help. When members of her fitness class began arriving around 5 a.m., they noticed something was wrong. Missy wasn't answering messages, and the church doors were locked. Eventually, one participant looked through a window and saw Missy's body inside the building. Police were called immediately. Investigators would later confirm there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the person responsible either knew how to access the church or was already inside. Missy's vehicle and personal belongings were untouched, ruling out robbery as a motive. Within hours, the quiet church became the center of a major homicide investigation. And as detectives reviewed the security footage, they realized the cameras had captured something that would haunt the case from that moment on. Before Missy Bevers ever arrived at the church that morning, someone else was already there. Security cameras captured a figure entering the building just after 3:50 a.m. The person was dressed head to toe in what appeared to be law enforcement tactical gear: a helmet, a vest labeled police, heavy boots, and gloves. In their hands, they carried what looked like a firearm and a tool later believed to be a hammer. What stands out immediately isn't aggression, it's patience. The figure moves slowly through the church hallways, opening doors, peering into rooms, and occasionally stopping to look around. At times, they appear almost bored. There's no urgency, no frantic searching, no obvious attempt to steal anything of value. Several doors are damaged during this time, but nothing is taken. Investigators and viewers alike have focused heavily on the way the person walks. The gait is unusual, a noticeable sway, almost as if one leg turns outward slightly. Over the years, this detail has sparked endless debate. Was it a physical injury, an intentional attempt to alter their walk, or simply the result of bulky gear and boots? Equally puzzling is the disguise itself. The uniform appears convincing at first glance, but closer inspection reveals inconsistencies. The gear doesn't match standard police issue, and the behavior doesn't align with any legitimate law enforcement activity. Whoever this was, they were impersonating authority, and doing it convincingly enough to delay suspicion. Perhaps the most chilling detail isn't what the figure does, but when. The person is still inside the church only minutes before Missy arrives. At some point, the cameras no longer capture them. Not because they left, but because they moved into areas without coverage. When Missy enters the building, she unknowingly walks into the same space as the person seen calmly roaming the halls just moments earlier. That footage, silent and grainy, remains the most haunting and frustrating piece of evidence investigators have. Because no arrest has ever been made in Missy Bevers' case, much of the discussion surrounding it exists in the form of theories. Investigators have emphasized that these are not conclusions, only possibilities based on limited evidence. One of the most debated questions is whether Missy was specifically targeted. Supporters of this theory point to the timing. The person inside the church appeared to be waiting, lingering just long enough to encounter someone arriving early that morning. The lack of theft and the controlled behavior suggest the goal may not have been burglary at all. Another theory suggests the crime was random, with Missy simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. In this view, the person may have broken into the church earlier, disguised as police to avoid suspicion if seen, and panicked when confronted by someone unexpectedly entering the building. The disguise itself has fueled endless speculation. Impersonating law enforcement could have given the person a sense of control or time. If Missy saw someone dressed as police inside the church, she may not have immediately perceived them as a threat. The surveillance footage has also led to debate about familiarity with the building. The figure moves confidently through the halls, suggesting they may have known the layout, the camera placement, or both. Whether that familiarity came from prior visits or careful observation remains unknown. What makes these theories especially difficult to evaluate is what's missing. No clear motive, no confirmed suspect, and no definitive forensic evidence made public. Each possibility raises new questions, and so far, none has led to answers. More than 9 years later, the murder of Missy Bevers remains unsolved. Despite national attention and countless hours spent reviewing the surveillance footage, investigators have never publicly identified the person seen inside the church that morning. No arrests have been made, and no suspects have been officially named. Over the years, police have followed up on thousands of tips. They've analyzed the distinctive walk, examined the disguise in detail, and explored both personal and random motives. Yet the case continues to resist resolution. For Missy's family, the unanswered questions have never faded. She was not just a victim in a mystery. She was a mother, a friend, and a presence deeply missed by the people who loved her and depended on her. The footage from that early morning still circulates online today, silent and unsettling. It's replayed, slowed down, and analyzed frame by frame, not because it offers closure, but because it doesn't. Somewhere in that grainy video is the key to what happened inside the church. And until that person is identified, the case of Missy Bevers remains what it has been from the very beginning. A haunting reminder that sometimes the clearest images leave us with the fewest answers.